So, today in this class we are going to discuss a new chapter from your history. It is the chapter number 8, okay, and the name of the chapter is Devotional Path to the Divine. And it is present in your page number 104 of your history book. And Sanchari, the syllabus of periodic test 2 I have already mentioned, and those chapters I have discussed in the class. Only those chapters and those subunits will come in examination. Okay. So, watch those videos again and again, and you can understood that those chapters are important. So, only one subunit, except one or two subunit from the first chapter of your periodic test 2 syllabus, that is chapter number 6, that a network of small towns, this subunit will not come in examination. Okay, skip this subunit. A network of small towns, except this subunit, everything will come in examination, all the other subunits except the boxes, extra boxes that mention about some important things. Those extra boxes, information mentioned in the boxes will not come in your upcoming examination. Like the source box, the information mentioned in the source box will not come in examination, and except this, the definition box also important very much, and the additional information also not come in examination. So, skip the additional information and the source box. Okay. So, this will not come in examination, only the definition box and the subunits, main subunits, and you can skip the only subunit from the chapter 6, that is a network of small towns. It will not come in your upcoming examination. So, let us begin our today's class with a new chapter and a new subunit. So, the first subunit from this chapter, this is the idea of supreme God. So, before starting that, I am just introducing you with the chapter, the devotional paths to divine. So, what is the meaning of the word devotional and divine? The devotional means that this word actually came from the devotees. Devotees means those are the ardent followers of any particular deity or God. Okay. So, the devotional path means through which path you can reach towards the divine, or divine means everything related to God or heavenly, that is called divine. Okay. So, the devotional paths to the divine, which led any person, any human being towards the God or Allah, whatever, the supreme being. Okay. So, you may have seen people performed rituals or worship. Sometimes they singing bhajans, kirtans or kavalis in bhajans and kirtans in various religious functions inside temples or in some open space, or kavalis in front of any dargah or any mazar. Okay. Or even repeating the name of God in silence, silently they repeating name. Sometimes they use the tasbih. Okay. And notice that some of them are moved to tears, and when singing songs or just chanting the name of the God, sometimes they full with tears. Such intense devotion or love of God is the legacy of various kinds of bhakti and Sufi movements that have evolved since the 8th century. From the 8th century means the 700 to 800 AD up to the 13th to 14th century, okay, AD. So, the flow of bhakti movements or just spread all over the Indian subcontinent. Okay, Deep. So, Deep, you can check the video in the e-portal. So, I will upload this video in the e-portal. So, from that video you can check that what I have said before. Okay, now listen to me about the new chapter and the new subunit. It is the idea of Supreme God. The idea of Supreme God. So, previously in the time of before the emergence of large kingdoms like the Kushanas, like the Mauryas and Guptas, different groups of people worshipped their own gods and goddesses. In some local deities also worshipped by the people in later Vedic phases. Okay, so, as people were brought together through the growth of towns, trade and empires, people's ideas, their religious ideas and the ideas about their own local gods and goddesses also mixed up. And new ideas began to develop, and the idea that all living things pass through countless cycles of birth and rebirth, performing good deeds and bad, came to be widely accepted. So, in this way the idea that was also said in the Upanishad, in Vedic texts, also said by Gautam Buddha as karma, that you have read already in class 6, chapter number 6 and chapter number 7. And so, those ideas widely accepted among the people. And similarly, the idea that all human beings are not equal even at birth gained around during this period. Okay. And the belief that social privileges came from birth in a noble family or high caste was the subject of many learned texts. And at the time what happened, the idea of all human beings are not equal even at birth gained ground during the period. So, this type of ideas also gained in the society, and the belief that social privileges came from birth in a noble family or rich family, king's family, or in a high caste like in Brahmin family also was the subject of many learned texts. Why people have taken birth in such high family, high classes? It is also very difficult for the common people to understood. So, that is why many people were uneasy with such ideas and turned to the teachings of Buddha or Jainas, according to which it was possible to overcome social differences and to overcome the misery of life and break the cycle of rebirth through personal effort. When Buddha and Jaina, they told in a very common language, they understood and they accepted Buddhism and Jainism. But these things are not accepted when these are written in Sanskrit language and in a heavy and in a very tough manner in Vedas, Rig, Sam, Yayu, Atharva and the latter Vedic texts. These are very difficult for them. Okay. So, some students also mentioned there repeating about what you were saying. I am not present, Sharona said. Okay, Sharona, just you can check the video, I will upload it in the e-portal. So, from that you can understood that which part is not part of your syllabus. I am repeating again that the chapter number 6, from the chapter number 6, the part that was excluded, that is the network of small towns. Network of small towns, information boxes and also the additional source box and additional information. So, additional information box and source boxes and the subunit, a network of small towns, these three will not come in your upcoming examination. So, excluding all these things, everything is very important for your upcoming examination. And this chapter also, that is why this chapter I am teaching you, this chapter is also important. So, listen carefully everyone, how did the idea of supreme God emerged and how did new deities emerged in our society, in our Indian religions. So, some people, they understood the Buddha's and Jainas language explaining the cycle of birth and death, and they accepted. Others felt attracted to the idea of supreme God who could deliver humans from such bondage if approached with devotion or bhakti. But some people, they were attracted to the idea that if you have a strong bondage with some particular deity or a supreme God, okay, with devotion means bhakti, if you have bhakti, then you also got salvation, means mukti. And this idea advocated also in Bhagavad Gita, it is also taken from Mahabharata. The idea of Bhagavad Gita, this type of idea also mentioned, and grew in popularity in the early centuries of the Common Era. In the early centuries, in the beginning of Common Era, means we have the first century, second century, third century, the beginning of the Common Era, this type of ideas became very much popular up to 8th centuries, 7th century. And Shiva, Durga, Vishnu, this type of supreme deities came to be worshipped through elaborate rituals, and they accepted Vedic rituals and they intermixed those ideas with the worship of this type of supreme deities, and they also started offering a lot of things, lot of goods and other things. At the same time, gods and goddesses worshipped in different areas came to be identified with Shiva, Durga or Vishnu. So, those local deities, some local deities also worshipped in different part of the India or Indian subcontinent, they also merged with the Shiva, Durga or Vishnu. They said these are the another form of Shiva or Avatar. That is a very common language we used every day or everywhere in India, that is the Avatar. Okay. Such as they said that Vishnu have taken 10 avatars, like, okay, sometimes he taken avatar of fish, sometimes a small boy, sometimes a turtle, sometimes a boar, wild boar. So, different forms, sometimes a half man, half lion. So, this type of different avatars and this type of stories also emerge. So, all these things actually, the process in which they submerged the local deities, they accepted the local deities as a form of these three main supreme God. So, in this process, local myths and legends become a part of the Puranic stories. Now, you know that 18 main Puranas are there, such as Vishnu Puran, Kalika Puran, that is Brahma Vaivat Puran, Garur Puran. Okay. So, this type of different Puranas, 18 main Puranas written, and the local stories included and also in the Puranas, and the local deities also shown as a form of Durga, Shiva or Vishnu or Avatar, and in the Puranas were introduced into local cults. And eventually, the Puranas also laid down that it was possible for devotees to receive the grace of God regardless of their caste status. So, different stories mention that the people from the lower caste, they also got salvation after worshipping this supreme deity. So, that is the main very important thing, that in later Vedic period, when these type of ideas emerged, the caste system was not so popular in this case. So, people from any caste, they can worshipped these supreme deities, and later the idea of bhakti became so popular that even Buddhists and Jainas adopted these beliefs, such as in Buddhism, the Vajrayan, the people, this is another sect in Buddhism, they accepted the Shakta, Tantric and those rituals, some lot of elaborate rituals inside their Buddhist religion. And the Jainas, they also adopted the idol worshipping. Okay, the idol worshipping, making idol of their any goddess and worshipping, this type of idea also influenced by these bhakti movements, and this is also included in Buddhist and Jaina religion. Today also you can see that they worship the idol of Buddha in Mahayana Buddhism. Okay. And the Jaina people, they also worshipped some goddess. Now the next subunit, a new kind of bhakti in South India, Alvars and Nayanars. So in the 7th to 9th century, it is saw the emergence of new religious movements and led by Nayanars. And Nayanars are the devotee of Shiva. And next one, Alvars, they are the devotees of Vishnu. And people from all caste and creed, including the untouchables, they are also became the part of Nayanars and Alvar sects, such as the Pulayar and Panars. They are two lower caste or untouchable community. So those people also become the part of Nayanars and Alvars and start in South India and started worshipping either Shiva or Vishnu. And they were sharply critical of the Buddhist and Jainas and preached ardent love of Shiva or Vishnu as the path of salvation. They only follow and show their love and affection towards the Shiva or Vishnu, and they are very much critical, means they criticize also about the Buddhist and Jainas, because their ideology, their philosophy was very much different than each other. And you have already read about Buddha's and Jainas idea in class 6. So you know that how much difference was present between these two ideas. So they drew upon the ideas of love and heroism as found in the Sangam literature. The idea of heroism and love towards their deity, they actually received from Sangam literature. What is Sangam literature? That Sangam literature was very much popular literature developed and composed during the early centuries of Common Era, between the 1st, 2nd and 3rd century AD. It was discovered, it was composed by some Tamil poets, and it is written on Tamil language. It is a Tamil literature. Okay, and the most famous poet of Sangam literature named Poddan, remember. Okay, and blended them with the values of bhakti. Now they blended the idea of Sangam literature, the heroism and the love towards their deity inside the bhakti movement. And the Nayanars and Alvars went from place to place. They started composing exquisite, beautiful poems in praise of their deities, mean praise of Shiva or Vishnu, and enshrined in the villages praise they visited. And they spread those messages among the villages they have visited and set them to music. They also composed and put some music on those poems and sang as a song in village to village, place to place. So between the 10th and 12th centuries, the Chola and the Pandya kings built elaborate temples around many of the shrines visited by the saint poets, strengthening the links between the bhakti tradition and temple worship. So in the time of Chola and Pandya king, that they ruled between 700 AD, 800 AD to up to the 1100 AD, you know that in South India, we have already read that they built a Brihadeshwar temple, that Gangaikonda Cholapuram temple, the Chola rulers, and those Alvars and Nayanar saints also visited those temples and strengthening the links between the bhakti tradition and the temple worship of the goddess. If you go those temples, so the idols also they are also either Vishnu or Shiva. Okay. In South Indian, most of the South Indian temples, this is also greatly influenced by Alvars and Nayanars tradition. And this was also the time when their poems were compiled. Besides hagiographies or religious biographies of the Alvars and Nayanars were also composed. Hagiography means writing of the saints' lives. Though the biography of the saints' lives known as hagiographies. Remember. Okay, so today we use the biography or hagiographies of those Alvars and Nayanar saints as a source for writing history of the bhakti tradition. When we writing the tradition, that's all these things written in your book also collected from those hagiographies written by Alvars and Nayanar saints. Okay, students, so this is the main idea of Alvars and Nayanars. So another box is mentioned, that information box in the page number 106, that there were 63 Nayanar saints who belonged to different caste backgrounds such as potters, untouchables, workers, peasants, hunters, soldiers, brahmanas and chiefs. The best known among them Appar, Sambandar, Sundarar and Manikka Bhasagar. Okay. And there are two sets of compilations of the songs Tebaram and Tiruvakkam. Tevaram and Tiruvakkam are the two sets of compilations of their songs. And there are also 12 Alvar saints who came from equally divergent backgrounds, like, and the best known being Peri Alvar, his daughter Andal, Tondara Dippodi Alvar and Nammalvar. Okay, so these are some important Alvar saints. So these are name are not important, so don't try to remember all these names. It is very difficult for you. You just know the number of saints that those are important. Okay, and their songs were compiled in the Dibbo Prabandham. Also name this name is very important. The compilation of their songs of the Alvars known as Dibbo Prabandham. Okay, I am rubbing the board, upper portion of the board. Okay, Dibbo Prabandham. It is the compilation of Alvar poems or songs. Okay. So students, if you have any question from this, you can ask me. Okay, thank you everyone. So you have understood everything. So remember that who are the Alvar and who are the Nayanar. A number of Alvar and Nayanar saints, their compilation of their songs, what is hagiography, etc. very important from this, and what are the important deities that were worshipped in the later Vedic period. That's all. Compilation of Alvars, okay, sorry, Alvars songs, compilation of Alvar songs. Okay, so thank you for watching. See you in the next class with the rest of the question answer of chapter number 6. Bye everyone.